If you're thinking about doing a marriage green card, before you even get to the green card part, how do you get married? Well, there's two situations. One is the foreign spouse is in the United States or they're outside. If they're in the United States, as long as they have ID, typically in every state they can get married with the local registrar just showing up there and taking care of that. There's been some times where the registrar will call the police, the person's out of statuses, mostly I think happened in like the South or in Alabama, but it's not typical for that to happen. The issue what may come up is if the person's here on like a tourist visa or some sort of temporary visa, they get married, you need to plan out how that works out with regard to their visa status to avoid it looking bad or something like that. That's something you discuss with an attorney, schedule a consultation. The more complex part comes up if the foreign spouse is overseas. Because for a U.S. person to get married overseas is a big headache. It's not like America where you just show up with an ID and get married. In overseas countries, I mean, overseas anywhere outside the country, almost everywhere, they have crazy requirements. You need to get a single certificate to show that you're single, you're not married, all that kind of stuff. Other countries issue these kind of things, but in America, we don't have a centralized authority for that. No one really issues that. So you may need to get a notarized statement that says it, and it may be difficult in accepting it overseas or outside the country. Also, a lot of countries have a requirement where you got to be there for at least a month physically or more before you can even register to get married. So I don't want any countries' rules change, but it might have been England where you got to spend 30 days there before you get married, and people don't have time to take off 30 days work just to be able to get married. One thing that happened because of the pandemic that made things much smoother is the opening of online marriages, which is still working. Right now it's 2025, June 2025. They're still accepting these. Where, for example, you get married through the state of Utah, and they accept that marriage for starting the marriage green card process. Now, there's a requirement that you have to physically see each other at the marriage or after the marriage. If you do get married online to consummate the relationship, make sure that physically you connected and document that because they're going to look into that. But that's really the easiest thing. We used to have a lot of clients go to Turkey because it was a centralized location in the middle of the place on the other side of the world where you can go. But they had some headaches again of getting a single certificate, on the cost of planning, scheduling, and doing all this stuff to get married. That became a major headache. But since this online marriage situation in the state of Utah started, for most of our cases, we do that situation. Unless sometimes they have time to go out and they have family there and want to have a big bash. I once had a client who was getting married in Colombia, and they showed up there, they did all this stuff, and as soon as they got to get married, the officiant there said, your passport signature doesn't really match the signature we have on this certificate, so we can't marry you. We think it's false. And this guy's like, dude, I pull out my family here, spend all this money and time, and now we got to go back to square one. That's just like crazy. But those are the last things you want to have to deal with regards to this process, just everything. So we are hesitant to keep continuing doing the online marriage because President Trump might change things for all we know, but that's something that majority of the cases are doing nowadays to solve this problem.